Hey guys, how's it going? CoreData here. Welcome back to another video. Today we're playing some more cards. I'm taking a look at one of the more popular decks of the current metagame, and that is Japan, Poland, self-credit denial. So this is one of the more popular decks in the current metagame. So this is the list. This is Japan, Poland, self-credit denial, and this is one of the more popular decks in the current metagame. I will say that I don't think this deck is as good as people think it is. I don't think its play rate really reflects its power level. I'm not saying it's a bad deck. I'm just saying from the amount of testing I've done with this deck, I've played this deck on and off. I've tested various versions of this deck since the start of the expansion, and I think this is like the first version of the deck that I've landed on that's felt anyway consistent. It is at its core an incredibly high roll focused deck. You need to have specific cards in hand in order for you to like make these early pop-offs, and that is essentially how you're winning. But this deck can struggle against other decks that have a lot of interaction, things like, say, Soviet Control, for example. Soviet Control has a very easy time disarming this deck in particular, as well as some of the other decks in the mid-game, things like Meteor as well, very, very good into self-credit denial in general. But I do want to talk about the deck because it has been incredibly popular since the balance patch. So what exactly is self-credit denial? Self-credit denial is a deck that is aiming to generate value by denying itself credits, essentially. So we have a number of cards in the deck that destroy our own credit slots, and we have a number of payoffs that trigger when we lose credit slots. Self-credit denial has been part of the metagame previously with the pre-nerf one roof, but it was always more of an OTK sort of kill you from hand style deck, whereas with the new tools it got from Oceania Storm, it is a much more board-focused strategy now. And we'll take a quick look at some of the new tools it got from the newest expansion, starting with Marase Battalion. This is a 1 credit, 1-up, 1/3 with smokescreen. Once per turn, gain 3 additional credits when you lose a credit slot. This is one of the key pieces of the deck. A turn 1 Marase will essentially supercharge your entire hand. If you see a Marase in your mulligan, you're more likely to keep some questionable hands because it is so good at accelerating you into these crazy turn 2 and turn 3 plays. Phenomenal card and one of the best cards in the deck, naturally. We also got Shinyo Motorboats. This is a 1 credit order. Lose a credit slot, deal damage to target unit equal to credit slots losses battle +1. So this is always at base 1 credit, deal 2, which is fairly a good rate. And obviously in the mid-game this can scale upwards of dealing 5, 6, or 7 damage. A phenomenal piece of tempo-based removal, and we are able to generate more copies of this with things like Air, Land, and Sea, for example. Next up, the deck got access to Special Attack. This is a 2 credit order. It's an elite. Lose a credit slot, your units gain destruction, deal 1 damage to the enemy HQ, gain a credit slot. So this does a couple of different things for this deck. Not only does it make our boards very, very punishing to clear by giving everything a destruction of dealing 1 damage to the enemy HQ. So for example, if you have 5 or 6 units in play and you play a special attack, your opponent goes to like wave after wave you to clear the board, you will just deal 6 or 7 damage based on however, like in pings to the enemy HQ, which can lock your opponent out of games in a lot of scenarios where you just kind of pin them with special attack that they're not really able to answer the board, and just if they answer the board they die, if they don't they die. So special attack, very, very good at closing out games in that sense. It also is very good at re-accelerating us once we've sacrificed a number of our credit slots. Just having a board with like 3 or 4 units that we special attack on, that when they die we regain the credit slots, is very, very good at getting us back into higher credit numbers when we need to like rebuild the board, essentially. A very, very powerful card. Probably one of the better win conditions in the deck. We are playing some of the older stuff as well from Covert Ops, things like the Great Expanse. But I think Special Attack is much better on average than the Great Expanse. But we are running both just for an amount of redundancy, essentially. We're also running 238th Regiment. This is a 2-cost 0-op 2/3 with Blitz. Deals double damage when you have 3 or fewer credit slots. This essentially will always just be a 0-op deal 4 damage on a 2-drop Blitz body. Very, very good at applying pressure early. Also very good at helping to control the board early. It's able to trade into 4 health units very, very easily. Just a really, really good piece of early game board presence. We are also playing 38 Independent. I think this is the last piece of credit denial payoff that this deck got access to from the new set. It is a 3-cost 0-op 4/4. Cannot attack or move. Suppress if you have 4+ copies. Duplicate this unit when you lose a credit slot. This is essentially a board in a box. You play this out, you play 2 credit denial cards, and you are left with 4 of these in the support line. We are playing 3, and I think 3 is too many. I think 2 is the most you want to run of this. It has amount of anti-synergy with the deck as a whole, because you want to have things like Murase, for example, in the support line. You can't do that if you're playing 38 independent, so it does have there's a little bit of like conflict, there's a little bit of friction within the archetype in that sense. I think 2 copies of 38 is probably the best number to run. 2 copies of 38 and then 4 copies of 5th Regiment to go a little bit harder on the early game high rolls that 5th Regiment can give you. But yeah, I'm not sold on building the deck entirely around 38 independent. I think the deck is far better when it's built to take advantage of an early Murase or early 5th Regiments, and then using 38 independent as like a fallback win condition if your board gets answered, for example. As for the rest of the deck, we are playing a number of standard Jagro tools, as well as one of the our only ally card is the 4 copies of Anders' Army, which is this was the one of the cards that Poland got access to in the most recent expansion. 1 credit, draw 2, deal 2 damage to your own HQ. Just 1 credit, draw 2 with like almost to no stipulation is incredibly powerful. This is just very, very good card draw. You'll notice we are only playing 2 copies of expansion. Again, this is kind of because like self-credit denial, at least this version or like these versions of self-credit denial, they have issues in the early game. They're not guaranteed the front line, particularly against other aggro decks, things like Japan, Anzac, for example. So expansion is very, very inconsistent in these decks, more so than it is in like a standard Jagro list. So I am only running 2 copies of expansion. If you're playing a version of this deck with the, I think is it 177th, the destruction, no, it's not 170, what is it, the 3 credit destruction, deal damage equal to credit slots lost this battle. I can't think of its name. 144th, sorry. If you're playing a version with 144th, you're much better off playing something like Deadly Duty in this slot. Just 2 144ths and 2 Deadly Duty is usually good enough. However, I think the versions with 144th aren't quite good enough. They're better in long games, but usually if you are going longer than turn 5, turn 6 with self-credit denial, you're most likely losing that game regardless. So I don't think this is the way to build a deck. I have tested both ways, and this one just, it felt a little bit too clunky to work. This has felt the smoothest so far. So yeah, we are playing some standard Jagro stuff. We are playing 2 copies of Sabo. This is just a 0-up unit that can that draws its card when it dies, essentially. 3 copies of Cavalry just to help us in the early game. Also very good at applying pressure. We are playing 3 copies of Air, Land, and Sea as one of the best self-credit cards in the game currently. Being able to generate extra copies of a number of key cards, very, very potent. Generating extra copies of things like desperate measures, like an extra copy of special attack, for example, can be incredibly swingy and game determinative in a lot of cases. Also, when you air, land, and sea and develop a 5th regiment, the 5th regiment that you develop will see the credit loss from the air, land, and sea. So you are developing a 2 credit 5th regiment off of air, land, and sea, which is relevant and worth noting. 2 copies of expansion, as I mentioned, just not reliable in this deck. At least not reliable enough for me to want to run the full package. I'm playing 10th Desperate Measures as well. Just 2 very, very potent elites for the deck. 10th Recon, just a cheap early game body. It has Blitz, so it can help trade against other aggro decks, as well as letting us have a little bit of just letting us shuffle away, for example, a great expense that we don't necessarily need early in the game. Desperate Measures is one of the best elites in Japan. 2 credits, deal 2 to everything and lose credit slots, so it also enables a lot of our self-credit denial synergies. We are playing Ann as one of our win conditions. This is partially why we're playing the Grey Expanse still, because in certain matchups, playing a long game and going for key Ann plus Grey Expanse is a way of closing out games. But the more I play this deck, the more I think that the Grey Expanse is just not necessary, at least not anymore, particularly with Murase. Radiant Brigade, just a generically powerful elite, very, very good in certain matchups. We're playing 2 copies of the 40th Cavalry Regiment. This is credit cheating, which can be very, very relevant, particularly when we are destroying our own credit slots. And we have a lot of very, very cheap 1-drop card draw in the form of Anders and expansion. So being able to reduce these to 0 and just power through our deck in the mid game, very, very important. We're playing 3 copies of 5th Regiment. I think 4 copies of this is probably correct, and 2 copies of Independent, like I mentioned before. Just one of the most important cards, I think, in the deck when it comes to trying to get the early game high roll, which is how this deck wants to win. To turn 1 Murase into like turn 2 credit denial cards into like double 5th Regiment, for example, is very difficult for a lot of decks to combat because it generates so much stats so quickly that I think I think focusing on 5th Regiment is probably the way to go. I wasn't certain on 5th Regiment earlier in the expansion, but the more I've tested with it, the more certain I am that this is the correct way to build the deck. We are playing, of course, Great Expanse. Again, I don't think this is entirely necessary, but right now I'm just playing it for redundancy's sake alongside Special Attack. And we are playing 3 copies of One Roof. 4 credits, draw 2, gain 4 credits if you've lost 2 or more credits last this battle. This is usually credit neutral, so it is basically 0 credits, draw 2, but you have to be at 4 credits in order to play it. But under some, if we've had this in hand with a 4th Cavalry dying, it is credit positive. So, for example, this will be cost 3, but generate 4. So that can also be worth remembering. The deck as a whole, I'm not sold on credit denial. It got a lot of tools, but I don't think it's better than just playing Jaggro. It's much more inconsistent. It has the ability to high roll and win games on turn 2, turn 3 with the insane Murasse starts, but those are so far and few between and so inconsistent. It's very difficult to recommend people like play this deck for laddering purposes. It is fine, it is powerful, but like I said, it's just so inconsistent. I don't think I could recommend people to play self-credit denial in the current format. And there is a lot of decks that just outright answer the early game high rolls, so it's a tough sell right now. Again, it's a powerful deck. Lower ladder, this is a demon as far as I'm aware. A lot of people complaining about 38 independent, but I don't think it's as much of a consideration at higher ladder, particularly in the current format, but still in a much better position than it was before the weather changes. As for cards you could be running in the deck, like I mentioned, you could be running 144th for the burn potential, which is, it's fine. This plus Deadly Duty, fine enough. You could get cute, play the Elephant Boys, double the destruction effect, but I think that is going a bit too far. You could also potentially slot in something like the Jake. I think in a world where you're only playing where you're only playing 2 copies of 38th Independent, this is probably a little bit better because there's not as much internal friction in the deck as to try and make sure you have space in the support line for the independents. So I think this makes a little bit more sense in that kind of shell. So like in a shell like this, for example, maybe just dropping the Great Expanse and playing Jake instead is perfectly fine, I would imagine. But with all that aside, hope you guys enjoy the rest of the video. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and on to some games. Up against Japan, probably a mirror, right? It's either a mirror or it's Japan Anzac. This is, I think we keep this. Find airline which is good. If it's Japan Anzac, the desperate measures will be really, really good. But the lack of turn 1 play makes me think it's SKD. So likely the mirror. Because I don't think Japan Anzac would miss turn 1. I'd expect to see like a 238 here from the opponent. It is Japan Anzac. Might be Japan Anzac Control then. They say they didn't have a turn 1. Lead off with this. Because now next turn we can start doing the self-credit denial stuff. Second task force, also from the leftmost. That was so their leftmost was task force, which seems about right. Find 1 roof. I will Anders first here. Find another Anders. I will Anders again. Find Shinyo and Airland and see. Push here. Yeah, so next turn is probably just going to go double Airland and see, play both of the 5th regiments. Zero. Airland and see. Can generate. I could generate a special attack. Special attack's not bad, like having an extra special attack. Particularly if this is a slower version of Japan Anzac, the special attack will at least punish a board clear. So we'll take spec attack here. Play the second Airland and see. I'm going to take Murasse here, I think. Because I can then go 5th, 5th, Mirase. Shinyo. Cavalry push special attack. Ooh, just pulled my earbud out of my ear. But this should be too much pressure, realistically, for the deck to, like, combat, right? We are at 0 credits, but when this board gets wiped, we will have a bit more to work with. I do need to push these to the front line as soon as possible to play around the retreat storm. It's like the one downside here. They have to think about it, so I'm guessing they don't have it here. They could still have one in hand. Deal 3 and repeat. Kills the Mirase. Alright, so we're at 2 credits at least. Find independent. I will push these, and then we'll go for Anders. Find another Anders. I will just push this. Play the other Anders maybe next turn. We'll one roof first and see what happens. We could have the bounce destroy, retreat the Coast Watchers, destroy one of my 8 attack guys, I guess. Deal 5 to a random. Snipes it. Manages to snipe the damaged one. To Yokosuka. Into Rain. Into Cavalry. Yeah, trades out to 2-3 here. So we go for one roof. See what we find. Find independent and another motorboats. Go for Anders here. Find another one roof. Cycle to one roof. Find the special attack. I think I'm just going to go independent and spend one of the motorboats here. Just to develop the board a bit. Because then next turn, like, this also makes it awkward with the retreat destroy, if that's what they picked. It's also out of range of the deal 6. Take Deluge for suppression, that's fine. Still a 4-4 in the front line. Like, special attack next turn is very, very powerful. It's a Nomia. I will Shinyo this. Push and push. Go for expansion. Go for 5th Regiment. Into the 2nd spec attack. Now this does punish if they have the bonsai, which is what I'm assuming they were setting up for. Thunderstorm. To Yokosuka. Likely was looking for some form of healing here, I'd imagine. Into Shibata. No, that's just... Yeah, it looks to be a Japan Anzac Control build, which has not been super common since the changes to weather. So very interesting to see it floating around right now. Up against Germany, I think? Sure are. Not really sure what Germany's doing at the moment. It could be some form of German mid-range with Blue Legion. I think that's like the most common thing to do with Germany right now. We'll just keep this hand. Turn 1 cavalry, turn 2 238. We then have Shinyo to keep the 238 active as well as Kards with the Anders. I think this is fine. But yeah, I think like Blue Legion mid-range stuff is the most common build of Germany. I think Heinz is also like somewhat fringe at the moment, so it'll be interesting to see what this is. But I'd imagine something like Germany US. That's what I've mostly been experiencing from Germany. Ooh, Murase is a great draw for next turn. Murase Shinyo into Anders is very, very good. Because the errata surely goes here. Oh, it's veterans. It might be Germany Anzac veterans then. Air, land, and sea. Play the Murase, play the air, land, and sea, see what we find. Find a second Shinyo. Fifth regiment is tempting because I can pick the regiment. I can go Shinyo, blow this up, Anders, draw 2, and then maybe get another SKD piece to get this down. I think I'll take the free body because this is enough to destroy this now. Anders for 2. Oh, great expanses, potentially huge. We don't have any denial pieces in hand, but if we draw a 1 credit SKD piece, we can just great expanse next turn. Opponent has seen enough. Yeah, the hand actually wasn't great, realistically, because we're at 2 credits next turn. We're relying on drawing a credit denial piece, a cheap credit denial piece off the top in order to actually do anything. Yeah, I think the scoop was premature from the opponent. I'll have to check to see what the ally was. I'm pretty sure it's likely going to be Anzac ally, but I don't think scooping to this was necessarily great, although I don't blame my opponent. This is a pretty explosive start on the surface, but yeah, the hand had not really much action to follow up with, so... Up against Japan, once again. Again, could be a mirror match. I think I ditched the independence. I don't think I want these early. Like, not against Japan, I don't think, right? Because these aren't active until turn 4. I'd rather find something proactive. I think the 5th regiment is fine to keep because we have Shinyo. Double cavalry is fine. They skip turn 1, so again, this might just be Japan Anzac. Could also just be SKD with a slow start. Japan France, okay. I have heard people talk about Japan France being somewhat popular in recent times. They probably have desperate measures in hand, which would suck. But if they don't... if they don't have the desperate measures here... This is, I think, fine. Go Murase. Go here. Go 1 roof. Yeah, next turn we can go airline and sea 1 roof and start popping off a little bit. They had the desperate measures. They just didn't want to play it. Plus Shibata. I have the Raiding Brigade for that, so that's fine. Second airland and sea. I will go airland and sea here. I don't care about taking the ping off the Shibata. We will generate ourselves... I guess another Shinyo is fine. We'll go 1 roof. Because I'm getting the credits back. If I hit a resistance, I think it's fine. Because I'm just going to play the Raiding Brigade and then play the 5th Regiment. Find expansion. Push this. I could draw again. I just want to try and make as much pressure on board as I can. Knowing now that this was Japan, France, keeping one of the 38 independents would have been fine. 2 for 1, that's fine. Push. Push. Place a Sabo. Pass. I can play a little bit more aggressive now that I know the Desperate Measures is gone. I do have to be aware about late game resistance, like locking down my board. Dina. I also have to be somewhat aware of taking damage because of the resistance ping. So like the Anders are going to be... The Anders damage is going to add up. Special attack is tempting here. Like we have Great Expanse as a potential finisher. Do we just take the expansion then? Take the expansion. Play the expansion. We do hit a resistance here, which is unfortunate. Push the Sasebo for the, I need to Shinyo this, I think. Yeah, I'll Shinyo this. It is pinned next turn, which is unfortunate. Do they have a... Oh, they can just blow this up now, yeah. That's unfortunate. Second Vive, sure. Into Independent. Play our cavalry, play 5th. Because the cavalry is gonna convert into a bunch of free card draw, essentially. Yokosuka. They're just shipping all this face, I'd imagine, right? They're looking for the 4 credit deal 3. Yeah. Opponent is going all in on being fun and interactive here. Immediately top deck a resistance. It's unfortunate. I have no credit tunnel cards in hand here. I will kill this. Push this. Draw. Immediately into another resistance. My god. My ability at hitting these low resistance counts is insane. Play a block. To lib, yeah. Watch me rip another resistance off the top. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, I love that. Oh, all 3! Oh, thank you. Very cool. Very, very cool. There was 4 resistances in my deck, by the way. And I just hit all 3 of the freshly shuffled ones. That's crazy. That was more a case of us getting incredibly unlucky with the timing, I think, on the resistance pulls. More so than anything else. Like, the fact that we're ripping the resistances, like, immediately when they're shuffled in. Anytime I play resistances, by the way, they're in the bottom half of my opponent's deck. Without fail, every time. Like, last 10 cards. So I think this is just a case of variance biting us more so than anything else, which is very unfortunate. Let's see. Up against Japan... I'll keep this. This is a questionable keep, but... Immediately find the Great Expanse again off the top here. Ah, it's the Japan-France deck again. Are we going to get unlucky and draw all the resistances immediately? Is the question. I can go Mirase into Airland and Sea. And then I can play the 5th doing this. Airland and Sea, we'll grab another 5th here. We'll get this down, because next turn I can go Shinyo. And start doing some stuff. Shinyo this. Go one roof. Push. Play here. I'm tempted just to go Grid Expanse this turn. And get my credits back. Because this will allow me to play the cavalry next turn. Because if I don't do this, I can't play any of my hand next turn. They have special attack of their own. Into Resistance Council. Ping me and shuffle resistance in. And they scoop. Okay. The early board a little bit too big, I think. That was a pretty sick Murase turn, to be fair. Finding the airline, like finding a 5th off the airline and the fact that the 5th sees you lose the credit slot for playing the airline sea, like if you generate one, is also like a pretty big deal. Yeah, just a very scary pop-off turn on, what was that, like turn 2, turn 3? Yeah, just a little bit too much advantage for the Japan-France deck. Up against Britain. I don't hate this keep. Something proactive on turn 1, turn 2 proactive is good. Raiding Brigade also solid. I'm assuming this is gonna be like Meteor, right? Get the cavalry forward. We just have like a Jagro open. Commando, yeah, so you can blast this now. I have the Raiding Brigade for a potential honey. Yes, okay. That's unfortunate, but it is what it is. I'll get the Independent down. I've just seen a Z-Spec come out. If they have the second Z-Spec, they're just better than me, I guess. Anz, sure. Anz and push. Go Airland and see. Find ourselves a cavalry, which is good. Go Airland and see a second time. Find ourselves a Shinyo, which might be relevant. Could also just take the other cavalry. Because I'm pushing... No, I made a mistake. I needed to play the cavalry first to trade with this. Because I'm going to be board locked now, so I think the Shinyo has to be taken here. Yeah, that was a misplay. I was supposed to play the cavalry first to trade and then push this forward so I could play the other things. But, yeah. It is what it is. I have goofed. Anz, I'm expecting to get waved next turn. But we can hope against hope that we don't get waved. Go for expansion. Find Shinyo and Murase. We'll hold the Murase. I'll just play out a cavalry and pass, I think. I'm expecting, like, plan wave. Double observers. Of course, they have both observers. My opponents are really, really good at having, like, all the copies of, like, the relevant cards in hand at any given point of the game. Play Murase, play cavalry. I am tempted to just play the 10th Recon here. Shuffle back Sasebo. They have fortification, that's good to know. Do it like this. This is where they play like 4th wave. Mosquito. To convoy. So I can destroy this, which is good. Go here. Play 5th, play special attack. Because now these survive a wave. And a wave also punishes them with damage, right? We're still not in a good position. By any stretch. There's the fort. Let's see the wave. Double fort. Plan. Alright, I need to think about Monty spacing here as well. So that this goes here, this goes here. Anz. It's still not wave. They're really digging for that meteor. For meteor or wave here. Sasebo. I am tempted just to Shinyo my Sasebo. To draw a card and trigger these to get more damage. I think it's worth it. Ultra, sure. Well, that's the Ultra Gun at least. Alright. This is going to be the wave. If they blast one of the 6/5s, I'll know for sure. Oh, interesting. Task Force. For 2. They have to get a piece together some form of clear here, right? The Mosquito? Yeah, the Mosquito can clear it. Still take a damage. That is not a draw I wanted. They need another fortification. I've seen them play 2 fortifications already, right? I'm just not going to overextend here. They can probably, like, try and clear the board, but they're taking, like, I think these all are special attacks, right? Yeah, they are. Sure. That buys them a turn, but I have outs in my deck. Need to research for radar. Plays the radar. They're really digging. They can play the commando and they can ping off the Sasebo. Okay, they have the wave. Actually, no, it's not even like guaranteed wave. I also pushed this wrong. This needs to be on the far side because of Monty. Because this cannot be cleared with the Mosquito. Alright, we're doing a really bad job of drawing card draw. There are still like 3 copies of Anders in the deck. There's still 2 expansions and there's still 3 1-roofs that we just haven't drawn. Here's the wave. Has to be wave, surely, right? Planned attack. I'm sitting here waiting for the wave. Like, how have they not drawn the wave? I don't understand. They had both of the forward observers for the first independent board. And then it just didn't draw the wave, like, at all. That is wild. I'm sitting, because normally my opponents just draw the answers, so I'm just sitting here expecting a wave that never came. My god. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Like I said, this deck is a ton of fun to play, but it is super inconsistent. It is quite popular across ladder, at least at the lower ends of ladder and in like low field marshal and stuff, but I don't think it is as good as people are thinking it is. it reminds me a lot of Goblin Scout from the Elder Scrolls Legends. Anyone who followed me over from Legends will probably remember my history with that deck, that it was a very powerful deck, but I could never quite get it to run as it should, just because it was so... It was also like a high roll centric deck. It relied on one or two pieces to consistently work, and this is very much the same. I do think it is powerful enough to hit field marshal with, so if you do want a deck like this to hit field marshal with, this is probably fine, but I just don't think it's better than playing straight Jaggro or playing like Japan Anzac, for example. But yeah, all that aside, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.